Well, good morning, folks. Hey, shout out to the controller of the podcast layer, the webmaster right in the center of it all.
Hello, everybody.
That is my producer, Philville.
Hey, it's great being back here. Can't wait to see what you're doing here in the community. But congratulations, by the way, on the show you had yesterday.
That was a lot of fun meeting Michael Gates. That was a big deal. Reason I'm introducing my producer is because not only does he do podcasts for other people, but he's responsible for that great theme song that the show now has. So
thank you. Thank you. We're in the studio right now recording some tracks right now, so I'm hoping to hopefully have that released on Spotify and Apple within hopefully this year.
Oh, cool.
In the summer, yeah.
Now, I do have somebody else here, and we've just completely ignored him for a minute, but I think he'll be okay. He has decided to upend his life, do something a little crazy, but something that's needed. He is running for assembly here in California. He's willing to go to the belly of the beast. Assembly District 31 candidate, Jim Polsgrove. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
I mentioned you're a little crazy, but we know each other pretty well.
We've known each other a long time.
Mostly a good kind of crazy. There's a little edge, but mostly a good kind of crazy.
Crazy has different levels.
It does. What I appreciate is you have brought a message of common sense. You haven't worried so much about liberal or conservative. You haven't worried so much about Republican or Democrat, but you want to bring common sense back to California. So how are you going to do that?
Well, first of all, common sense is resonating with the people. They're so tired of what's going on in California that what they do, they just want something that makes sense to them. They want an affordable life. They want to be able to save. They want a house. They want to put gas in their car. You know, they want to put food on their table. And with some of the things that are going on, it makes no sense. For an example, vehicle registration. You know,
I know this one. I got friends in other states, and it's painful to hear.
And my oldest son lives in Idaho. He drives a 2018 Dodge four-wheel drive truck. I personally drive a 2020 Chevrolet truck two-wheel drive, so they're roughly the same value. Mm-hmm. He pays $125 registration every 2 years. I just paid mine a few months ago, $557.
For 1 year.
1 year. My question, why?
Well, somebody's lining their pockets, and it's because California has a significantly larger government per person, per capita. It's not. It's a larger percentage. It's not just that California has more population, but we've got this labyrinth of rules, regulations, and people to support them in California that are stifling business and driving up cost.
And then I won't even get into gas tax. I mean, gas tax doesn't just affect you when you're at the pump. Gas tax affects you when you go to the supermarket, when you buy food, when you go to the mall and buy clothes. All those materials, all those goods and services have transportation costs involved. And it drives the cost of living up. Well, you know, we've got to look at it. We've got to find out where we can trim the fat and go from there.
Well, we have a governor that is 100% fat.
You put me on a spot because I'm gonna be nice and not say anything on that one. Oh. How's that?
Go there.
Well, I appreciate the. Everything about Gavin just is bad. So let's just move on.
You and I both have the same feeling. Both of our guts kind of turned when you mentioned his presence.
Yeah. He's like, when you clean out the menudo.
Yeah.
When you're first cleaning it, what you get rid of and you don't eat.
Yeah.
That's Gavin.
Yeah.
Menudo.
Menudo?
How do you say it? Menudo?
I don't know.
Okay. Continue. Sorry, I just caught that. It's hilarious.
Hey, it's okified.
I like that. Go for it.
So, if we've got a government that isn't responsive, how do we change that?
Well, the first thing we've got to do is get the people to stand up. And that's really what I want to talk about my campaign. I want to talk about the common sense I want to bring back to California. I want to talk about the issues. But after the election, when I analyzed the numbers out of the primary, I realized that one of the major issues that we have in accomplishing that goal is voter turnout. We have got to get the voters out to actually vote. We've got a large section of the population out there that are what they used to call the silent majority, except they're not just being silent, they're not casting their vote. Now, you and I both feel the same way about the voting system that we've got now. We'd personally rather have in-person, one-day voting, et cetera, et cetera. But the reality is we have mail-in voting. We have multiple days. There is no excuse on this planet for us to have less than an 80% turnout rate at the polls.
And that's generous.
And that's generous. I'm saying I'm counting for a lot of people that may be in the hospital or whatnot like that, but it should be up around 90%. In my race, I think the Republican turnout was 20%.
Is that because they have no hope?
I think a lot of people have given up hope. I mean, when you see occurrences like down in Southern California with the mayor's race down there, you had 24,000 votes come in with not one Republican vote. The chance of that happening, I think I'd have a better chance of hitting Super, Mega, and Powerball all in the same week than that happening. Secondly, we've seen the interviews of the homeless down there that are being paid for registering. Section Division 2, Chapter 1, Section 2101 of the California Elections Code says that can't be done.
Right.
Why isn't Rob Bonta going after these people that are obviously cheating?
Well, because it's supporting the Democrats.
Oh, yeah.
So the end justifies the means is the problem. We've got politicians where the end justifies the means.
Actually, my personal opinion is it's not as much for the cheating as it is a course of psychological warfare against the Republican voter. That way, what happens is the Republican voter starts feeling that my vote doesn't count. In the case of my vote doesn't count, then they don't have to cheat as much. Every vote counts. In congressional district, in 2024 in congressional district, and I'm the same with you with numbers.
Right.
Adam Gray.
Adam Gray and John Duarte.
13 it was?
I think it was 13.
I think it's 13. Like 700,000, I think it's 700,000 people live in that congressional district, 400,000 voters. That race in 2024 was won by 187 votes.
And then 2 years later was won by the other side by something real close to that.
Something real close to that.
I don't remember the number, but a congressional district flipped back and forth twice over less than 1,000 votes.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that's crazy. So every vote does count.
Every vote does count.
David Shepard, he ran in southern Fresno County, a large part of Bakersfield, a little bit of Kings, and a little bit of Tulare County. He lost by less than a couple hundred votes.
I thought I brought the numbers with me. I did had one of those can't sleep nights, and when the wheels in the head were turning, so I started looking at close races throughout the country. And I came up with 12 different examples, all above, like state assembly. And they were called different things in different states, but state assembly, state senate, congressional. They had 6 or 8 of them that were won by one vote.
Wow.
There was one that was an absolute tie. It was decided by the flip of a coin.
Wow.
I had 12 different examples, and the best case scenario, I think it was won by 12 votes. So, 12 votes out of, 500,000 people, let's say, or 187 votes in Congressional District 13 out of 400,000 voters.
Yeah. Well, how do you wake people up, shake them by the lapels? Some of them are just leaving the state, but the ones that have decided to stay, a decision will be made. Obviously, you or I don't touch enough people that we can change all of it. So we've got to actually empower and encourage an army of people to go talk to their friends and their family and their neighbors.
Well, here's the thing that we can do. You've got your listenership.
Mm-hmm.
if you ask every one of your listeners to go out and talk to 10 people and have them tell the 10 people they talk to talk to 10 people, how long would it take to get that message out to 1 million people?
Not very long at all.
No. I mean, I'm a bit unusual. I walk out of a grocery store and I may spend 15, 20 minutes in the parking lot talking politics to somebody else carrying the groceries out too. I walked into a Subway the other day that I frequent. I walk in, the gal asked me, hey, how's your campaign going? Because I'm talking about my campaign. I'm talking about politics. I'm talking about common sense.
Well, here's one of the key things you said. You're going out and you're talking to people personally. Getting another flyer in the mail, after the first few, you just kind of tune them out.
Oh, the same thing with text and emails and everything else.
There's no substitution for that personal contact. The
personal contact, and that's the way I'm running my campaign. In the primary, I did a little bit of media outreach. But my main focus was on getting out and talking to the people. I would go out and talk to businesses. I didn't just go tell them about me. When I would walk into a business, I would, of course, introduce myself. But then I would start asking them, the first order of business was to ask them what they thought. What's important to them? Because actually the true job of an assemblyman, a state senator, governor, President of the United States is not to rule and lead. It's to represent the people.
And you have to listen to do that.
But if you don't know what the people think, how can you represent them?
A lot of ideologues, both sides, just get up there and they're like, well, these are my values and this is what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
And they forget that element that they're a servant.
I've heard people on both sides say that, I'll go with what the people want unless I think that that's wrong.
If they thought it was unconstitutional, that's different than wrong.
Yeah. Unconstitutional is a whole different thing because I'm a very staunch constitutionalist. The Constitution, and I've said that, there's certain things with certain very, very popular politicians that I don't agree with because I go back to the Constitution and what the Constitution actually reads.
Well, is it a living document?
To a certain degree.
Right, because there is a path to change it.
Oh, yeah, there's a path to change it. And, things do change over the course of history. That's like with the certain aspects of the Constitution, the Bill of Rights. There's certain protections afforded. And they say, well, that only applies to muskets, talking about guns. But let me ask you a question. Does the freedom of speech, freedom of the press only apply to a newspaper? Does it not apply to radio, television, podcasts?
And podcasts, now somebody like Joe Rogan can reach millions with every episode.
Mm-hmm.
And high millions.
So it does evolve.
So yes, it does evolve some, but I'm in the place where I believe original intent matters, and you have to determine what they meant. That doesn't mean that you couldn't then go through the process to amend the Constitution.
I agree there. I see what you're saying. And yes, I do agree.
So it's a living document in a sense, but I'm more of a traditionalist that looks at what were they trying to say. Now, if things have changed so profoundly that I need to now advocate for changing some aspect of the Constitution, sure. Mm-hmm. There's a path forward. It's purposely difficult to do.
And to change the subject a little bit, the one thing that we have got to do, and you mentioned it earlier, we can't just be Republicans, we can't just be Democrats, independents, or whatnot. We have to be Americans. We have to stand up for what's right for our country. Because, regardless of the bad that we've got, there's not another country that allow us the freedom that we do in the United States. I mean, it's one of the best. It is the best place to go.
Well,
okay.
If we fall, where do you run?
Well, that goes back to
nowhere.
what Ronald Reagan said. His story about talking to the guy from Cuba. You know, he's talking about him being lucky. He says, and the guy from Cuba says, I wasn't lucky. At least I had a place to go. If the United States falls, where do they go?
So we're kind of responsible for the freedom of the free world.
Oh, yeah.
And with that responsibility, a bunch of us still don't even bother to send in a mail-in ballot.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, I'm shaming some of you. I realize probably if you're listening to this show, most of you are voting. At least I'd like to believe that. But I guarantee you've got friends, family, or neighbors that you could talk to and say, look, I'll take your ballot in and if you'll fill it out. Or let's go down and vote in person. In Fresno County, there's some voting centers opened as much as, 11 days early? And you can go to
10,
the register.
11, 12
I think
days,
it's
something
11.
like that.
Well, you see your buddy that you're afraid won't vote and say, let's go both vote in person.
Yeah.
I'll buy you a cup of coffee. You're not buying for their vote. We're just going to stop by and vote for a few minutes, and then I'll buy the cup of coffee.
Well, here's the thing that gets me on that, too. You say that you won't shame them. I will.
Try not to.
I will. Because here's what I'm saying. If anybody's got the courage to stand up and complain about what's going on in this country and not like it, yet they don't do the very simplest task in order to bring about change and bring about resolution, bring about common sense, then yes, I will shame them. I will tell them that you have no right to say anything in the future until you at least start to vote.
I agree with that sentiment. I approach it with I'm trying to be nice rather than negative.
I'm not going to be nice on this. Our country's at stake. Our state's at stake. Our country's at stake. Our freedoms are at stake. I mean, we see some of the stuff going on all over the country. Mm-hmm. With this invasion that's been going on, and it's sometimes you just have to not be nice. Well, and I'm sorry, I don't. You know me, I'm a nice guy. But there reaches a point where you can't be nice anymore.
You.
Huh?
Until they poke you.
Until they poke the bear.
Yeah. You use the word invasion. I actually think that is absolutely right for a lot of people that are coming into this country, and they're not trying to melt meaning. They're not willing to embrace some very American ideas like, well, we've got a civil society. Meritocracy is good, meaning the most capable that work the hardest should be rewarded for it. There's some basic American things that make up the American dream, and a lot of those people that are sneaking over the border, or frankly, I would say some of the Muslim populations that are trying to set up Sharia law in their own little communities, they're not trying to be American.
Oh, no.
Why are we letting people in that are not trying to be American?
Everybody says they're coming here because of the opportunities in the United States, the opportunities of what we have provided as a free country. Mm-hmm. Yet they want to change it. Mm-hmm. I'll go back to my son in Idaho. You go into, and this is the way it is in a lot of states where a lot of people from California are moving. It's not just conservative people moving to these states. You've got a lot of more liberal-leaning ideologies. The people are moving there. But the sad part is they're taking their philosophies with them that created what we've got currently in California.
So they didn't see the light. They just wanted the economic opportunity.
They wanted the economic opportunity today, but they don't want to see the light as to what created that in the first place.
I know in Florida it hasn't worked out that way.
No, Florida's got a good governor over there, and they take a stand.
But, if things tipped and either Florida or Texas shifted.
Well, Texas is shifting too.
But
you look at the Austin area. Austin area has become very liberal.
Right. But most of Texas is
Most of Texas is.
My point was that if either one of those fell, we'd never see anybody that's even more than a moderate as a president ever again.
Never.
So California is one of those places where if we could shift California, imagine a country where we had freedom, less regulation, economic opportunity, and the ability to define your own destiny. Because I think that's one of the other key American things. Well, that could happen in California if we had, how about some common sense instead of one party corrupt rule? Because we've got one party corrupt rule.
We can't get anything done. Common sense doesn't resonate in Sacramento because the people in power have none. Now, wait a minute. Let me back up. I shouldn't say that. And
They're not willing to exercise it.
The reason I shouldn't say that is I'm not going to say that all Democrats have no common sense. Because since the primary, I have actually received a lot of bipartisan support for my race.
Well, that's good.
And that's one thing that makes me very hopeful. Because there are Democrats out there that are just as fed up with what's going on as you and I are.
But they're awfully quiet. They have those conversations quietly rather than publicly, is my experience.
In some cases. Yeah, they're a little more under the table about it. I'm familiar with one local politician, been a Democrat all of his life, and he's recently changed parties.
I know who you mean, and you can either name or
No, I'm not going to name him.
Okay, no problem. I'm simply going to say if he's listening, welcome.
And thank you for all the help.
Yeah. California on this ballot has two things that should drive people to polls. Everybody that owns property should want the protections. I can't remember the prop number, but they should want the
39.
39 is for voter ID.
Okay.
This is the one for Prop 13 protections that would require local governments to have to get a 2/3 to get a new tax in on your property.
Right.
I love that idea because it's too easy for them to raise money. And politicians and frankly bureaucracies always justify how they need more. And a lot of them are do-gooders and say, well, I could do these great things. Yes, but we also have to find a balance because the taxpayers need to be served. They need to have a reasonable cost of living. And I think the government's gotten out of control. So this 2/3 thing would mean that it would be so much harder for them to raise taxes on your property. So instead of at the state level, see what's happening is your property taxes are going up at a local level, whether it's a city or a county, and they're rising faster than what Prop 13, the idea that they can only go up a small amount so you can afford a home. Well, that's on the ballot. We have a way to protect our property. So everybody that's property should be wanting to vote yes to that 2/3. There's a reason to go to the polls.
Well,
the other one you mentioned. But
here's the thing that gets me. You know, they're trying to eliminate Prop 13. You know, the protections for the valuation of the property. If you think that we have a homeless problem today, if they pass that where they can reevaluate, reappraise your property and tax according to the new appraisal, how many people do you think will be homeless? Can you imagine?
A whole lot.
Can you imagine an elderly retired couple on fixed income?
My mom would be homeless almost instantly. She'd have to sell her property to pay the tax that year.
Oh, yeah.
As it is, she struggles to make the payment. And she bought her house 25 years ago-ish.
And she's probably paying taxes on, what, $100,000?
Something like that, yeah.
Okay. And today it would be 300,000, 400,000, 500,000?
5 or maybe even 6 because of the neighborhood she's in.
Oh, okay. So basically you'd be talking about, let's go on the conservative side, 5 times the amount of property tax on a fixed income.
She couldn't do it. She'd have to sell her house the first
year,
year, or I'd have to pay the difference.
Oh, yeah. And which would make your life harder, which in turn makes somebody else's life harder. It just makes no common sense. And this is why I'm going back to common sense. Common sense, we have got to bring some back in. You know, I want to help everybody out there, but you have to be able to draw the line.
Well, if your idea is that we can always just get more money from somewhere, it doesn't work. It's like the idea that socialism, you know, they can promise all this free stuff, But it doesn't work because eventually you run out of money because there's no incentive to be productive if if it's a confiscatory rate, meaning an unreasonable rate. We're seeing a huge flight of rich and mega rich like Zuckerberg, like Elon Musk. They don't live in California anymore. And that's cost California millions.
That's just
millions.
like that billionaire's tax. They're going to, tax of 5%. How many people are employed by the 212 billionaires in California?
A huge amount, and it's not like they have billions sitting there in a big pile of money like a dragon's hoard.
Oh,
They've
no.
got it invested in stuff.
Well, it's invested in businesses that they're writing paychecks every week.
Right.
What happens when he picks his business up and moves it to Texas, moves it to Florida?
California loses billions.
Okay. Not only loses billions in tax revenue, how many people are unemployed? How many people are now going to be homeless because of another decision made by Sacramento?
Sacramento is a great place for unintended consequences because I do believe that most of them want California to succeed, but they don't seem to have any ability to see how their behavior is destroying cost of living, running businesses out because of regulation. Was it BP? I think it was BP. It was one of the major oil companies that recently left. They paid $2 billion to get out of their
Was it
California.
BP or Valero? I think paid $2 billion.
It was one or the other.
One of those, yeah.
To get out of California because they were like, we can't handle the regulation. Clearly there's a problem. We need different representation in Sacramento.
Now, here's the very simplistic way that I look at it, and that confuses me. Okay, California does not have a bubble over it. Okay, we don't regulate the air quality just in California. We're part of a worldwide ecosystem. Mm-hmm. Okay, we basically put all these environmental regulations on the oil companies that provide services in California. And we make them so stringent that these companies are moving out. Mm-hmm. Okay. Where if they go to another state, if we get our oil from Venezuela, from the Ukraine or whatnot, what are their constraints on environmental protection?
Well, it's slightly worse than that because our oil, about 12 million barrels a day, gets burned in California. And it's mostly coming from the Middle East because we have stopped our local production of oil. We're not pumping it out of the ground. We're not processing it because we've driven out the producers, the refiners.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's get back to my point just for a second. If we drive the production out of California and we get it from the Middle East, from Ukraine, from Venezuela, they don't have the environmental protections. Mm-hmm. So now we are the people that want to save the environment are actually making the environment worse by putting a greater demand on these countries that don't protect the environment.
Right.
We're actually burning dirtier gas because of our own policies.
Well, and we don't even count the carbon credits
and
on that oil from the Middle East until it's 12 miles from our shore. Did you know that little fact?
No.
Isn't that crazy? We don't count any of the carbon that was burned and when it was pumped out of the ground in the Middle East, refined in the Middle East, put on an oil tanker. None of that counts until they're 12 miles from California shore, and that's their way of getting around. So it's kind of a dirty little secret. They're not really saving the world like they're claiming. They've just found a different way to control us and not have good jobs here because oil industry, generally, those are pretty good paying jobs.
Oh,
Middle class people work those jobs.
It's dangerous work, but it's very good paying.
Yeah.
And it boils down to the overall problem that I think we've got. So many times the left may have a good idea, but they don't think outside the box of the other facets that come into play on what they're doing. They're very tunnel oriented. And they don't
blinders on.
They've got blinders on. And so what we've got to get some people in Sacramento that can think outside the box. Well, yes, this looks good, but what's the outside impact on this decision? Is it good for the overall people? Yes, it may help this segment of society, but how many more people of the rest of the society hurt?
So I'm going to take a giant flyer here and say that if you had a choice between more or less regulation, you'd be at less.
Oh, on the oil industry, of course.
I mean, we do need some regulations.
Oh, yeah.
But we've also got to find a balance where people can make a living, where we still protect our environment. But clearly that little in-run I told you about, the 12 miles out, that's just an in-run around their own regulations.
Mm-hmm.
So they're not actually complying. Another one that's crazy. Did you realize that hydroelectric power is not considered clean energy?
Yes, I had heard that.
Yeah.
And that makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. I think I fell out of my chair when somebody told me that.
I learned about that about 3 years ago. Well, there's another place where California's got all these rules about so much of the energy that goes into our power grid has to be clean energy, but they're not counting hydroelectric power on existing dams that have been there, in this case, most cases, for generations, because we haven't done really anything new in water storage since the 70s.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
I think it's late 70s was the last thing. Well, if that was counted as clean energy, then we wouldn't have to be buying these expensive sources of energy, because they're only counting solar and wind as clean energy.
Mm-hmm.
And those are expensive sources of power. We would immediately, just by redefining that one thing, lower the cost of power for everybody. Real simple fix. Democrats want no part of it. Tongapaw, our local assemblyman, running in a district right next to yours.
Right next to.
You know, he's talked about this several times. I first learned about this when he first ran, was that 4 years ago?
Mm-hmm. No, 2 years ago. 24.
Was it 24?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's a huge deal. A simple, just by redefining something, we could lower the cost. California, there's real simple, low-hanging fruit where we could make things easier for the average Californian, because power costs affect everybody, rich or poor. But they especially affect the poor, because it's such a high percentage of their income to pay for gas, electricity.
Well, I've talked to people before. You know, you've got these taxes out here, and I hear a lot of people say, well, it's only a quarter cent per dollar. It takes 10 dimes to make a dollar. Mm-hmm. You get a quarter cent here, a quarter cent there. And the ones that it impacts, you know, are the ones that are having trouble putting food on their table, gas in their tank, and a roof over their head.
Essentially, it's a regressive tax. The poorer you are, the more it affects you.
Oh, yeah.
And that's one of the huge crises in California, is everybody at that bottom level that the left says, oh, we care about. Their solution is to give them government money. My solution is have government get out of the way so that they can pull themselves up, so that they can capture opportunities.
You know, that's just like we talked earlier. You know, I was up the other night, and I mentioned a little bit about the gas tax and about vehicle registration. The third thing I thought about that night was fraud that goes on, you know, the Learning Center, that type of thing, which is estimated between $220 and $450 billion a year.
Then that's California. That's
California. Okay. Because I'm just dealing with California. So I looked at it this way. If you reduced the gas tax, okay, let me back up. Gas tax for California is highest in the country. Mm-hmm. We have traditionally ranked lowest in the country on quality of roads. One of the states with the highest rankings, Virginia, their gas tax is 28 cents a gallon. Vehicle registration, if we lowered it to, say, even 200, like on my truck, as I used as an example, $250. Number of vehicles, do all the math on that. So basically, if we reduce gas tax to, say, 30 cents a gallon, reduce vehicle registration to a more reasonable level, say about half of what we're talking about, and also eliminated the fraud using just the 220 billion, not the 450, but the 220, you could give every man, woman, and child in the state of California 39 million people a check every year for $10,000.
Just in savings.
Just in savings.
Wow, that's crazy. We're starting to run out of time. I know we need to talk about Prop 39. I know you're really big on getting people out to the polls. And before I forget, we also need to give some campaign information if they want to know more about you, where to find you on social media.
Okay.
So as long as all three of those happen, whichever one speaks to you first.
What do you want to say about Prop 39?
Just like the Prop 13 initiative, and I can't remember the number, and I'm sorry, folks, but Prop 39 is the voter ID initiative. What a great motivator to get people to the polls. Everybody that is jaded and goes, oh, well, I can't prove anything. Well, here's your chance to begin to change the system so that we can feel more confident in our vote. You know, in the state that requires a real ID.
Well, here's the thing. I don't understand why we don't need a real ID in the first place just by the existing code that we've got. As I said, Division 2, Chapter 1, Section 2101 of the Elections Code calls out you've got to be a citizen. You've got to be a resident. You've got to be 18 years old. You can't be a felon. You can't be declared mentally incompetent. Why do we need to tell the government to do? Why do we need to have a voter voting to tell the government to do what they should be doing in the first place, is verifying that these regulations are being met?
Agreed, but apparently we do. So here's where the reality is.
I know.
Here's our opportunity.
I'm asking for unicorn dust.
Yes.
But no, we have got to get voter ID in place. We should be doing it in the first place, which is where I was going. But if the people in Sacramento will not do their job, absolutely refuse to do their job, then we need something that's going to make them do their job.
And I think this has some of the teeth. It doesn't fix the whole system, but it sure cuts down on the possibilities of cheating.
Oh, yeah.
Which is huge. All of a sudden, one person, one vote might mean something.
Mm-hmm. Those half a dozen or so races that I mentioned earlier, that one vote could have changed it.
Mm-hmm. And if there's obviously fraud. We don't know exact numbers because we've got a system where as soon as it comes a ballot comes in, as soon as it comes out of the envelope, you can't tell who did it.
Mm-mm.
And it's not on proprietary paper.
But you've got people being interviewed on TV that I'm seeing it on the news that, oh yeah, they paid me $5 to register to vote.
Right, which is clearly wrong.
That's
you're not allowed
clearly
to.
a violation of law.
Mm-hmm. Yet our Attorney General, like you said, he's not doing anything.
No. So we definitely need to change attorney generals. Mm-hmm. Now the other attorney general,
Michael Gates.
Michael Gates.
So
he's just
running,
on your show.
Yeah.
We need somebody that's going to actually do the job, not waste our time. It seems like all Bontas want to do is sue Donald Trump. Mm-hmm. 74 lawsuits.
It's right in there, yeah.
And from the numbers I heard, it's something in the neighborhood of $20 million a lawsuit for everyone. So 20 million, 74, 100, $14 million or $14 billion or something like that he spent in your money out there fighting Donald Trump. And he hasn't been successful.
Yeah. That's the insanity of California. You've got an event coming up. So let's give your social media first, and then I want to talk about your meet and greet event.
Okay. Let me just restate real quick before we get into that. The main thing that we need to do in the upcoming elections in November is get the vote out there. We need everybody to vote. We don't need 20% voter turnout. We don't need 40%. We need 80% voter turnout. If you're fed up with what's going on in the state of California, if you love the state of California like I do, then get out and vote. There's no excuse. You're gonna get your ballot in the mail. Use it. Get it back in. Unless you're in a coma in the hospital, you have no excuse not to get your ballot back in. Okay. Now, my website. And also tell your friends. Don't be afraid to talk to people. Eric knows I like to talk to people, and sometimes a little too much. I'll agree, but all you've got to do is talk to the people that you're out there talking to. You run into every day. Mm-hmm. Tell them to vote. Tell them to look it up. You don't have to tell them how to vote. Just tell them to vote. Tell them to do the research.
I tend to advocate for a position, but I don't tell them specifically they have to vote my way, but this is why I vote this way. This is why I believe this.
That's kind of what I do also. Being in the position that I am, I had a lot of people call me and say, hey, I don't know how to vote on this. I don't know how to vote on that. I would tell them, well, I'm voting this way because of this, and this. Mm-hmm. So,
which I think is better to try to educate somebody than just tell them what to do. I'd
rather educate the people than tell them what to do.
Well,
my website is www.paulsgrove for the number 4 Calif CALIF.com. My email is same thing, Paulsgrove for the number 4 Calif @gmail.com. I'm going to look here because I always forget. And then on my Facebook, Instagram, and X, it's the same thing, Paulsgrove for Calif. It's POLSGROVE for the number 4 CALIF. So try to keep everything easy and so that everybody can.
Well, we're down to about a minute and a half, so I would like to go ahead and. You've got a meet and greet, an opportunity to see you in person, look you in the eye, shake your hand if they want.
Ask me the hard questions.
And absolutely ask you hard questions. This is going to be August 5th. That's a Wednesday in Fresno.
Right.
At Mike's Pizzeria from 4:30 to 7:30 p.m.
Correct.
I will not be there at the start because I'm working that day.
The one thing I'll say is this is the first of a series. I plan on doing, I think I've got 10 or 12 of these planned out throughout Assembly District 31. Sanger, 2 or 3 of them in Fresno, Selma, Fowler, Parlier, Orange Cove. There may be a couple more that I'm forgetting off the top of my head. So you don't have to drive clear across town. Just be on the lookout because they will be out there. I'll provide pizza, soft drinks. Come on out. Bring a friend. Ask me the hard questions. I'll tell you what you want to hear. No, I don't want to say that. Not. I will answer your question honestly.
Final thoughts, Jim.
Get out and vote.
You hear that, folks? I keep telling you, this is a call to action. This is a man of action. Jim, I absolutely wish you the best of luck in your race. If you want to make a difference, this is one of the people that's willing to listen to you and go out and make a difference. This is Eric Rollins, the Constitutionalist. If you're in District 31, vote Jim Paulsgrove.
Thank you, Eric.
The mics are clear. No.
Everything that you have done with any of these interviews, not just me, you've got to.